And just so you know, this webinar will be recorded and the recording will be available, like I have already alluded to. So just a little bit about who Positive Health Network is. This is who we are. We um, an organization that serves about 1.5 million, and this has been happening since 1986. And we actually have been a primary voice for HIV and AIDS prevention, education, and support. And for more information, you can visit our website and get more information about what our agency is all about. Now I will go into just briefly introducing our panelists. I'm sure they'll have more to say about themselves once we delve into our mandate for today. I'm very grateful to have a vibrant group of very, 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 very decorated panelists. Firstly, I would like to introduce Rudo Shikonas Mashongera, who is a human rights activist and community development practitioner. And Rudo is originally from Zimbabwe and is new to Canada. My second panelist is Taps Zozo. He's a dynamic storyteller, aspiring content creator, and a former public prosecutor, and also hails from Zimbabwe. I have Joy Ayomide Adebayo Oyetoro. Did I say that right, Joy? And Joy is a Black queer intersectional feminist, a human rights advocate, and project management professional. And Joy is originally from Nigeria. I'd like to welcome you all to this very interesting discussion. Welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mercy, for having us.
At the end of this webinar, we're going to have a survey just to get lessons and maybe how we can improve this, because this is the first of a series of webinars that we're going to be having. So maybe we have done some things not so okay, but would like to have your feedback so that we improve on the next webinars that we're going to be holding, and would really appreciate if you just gave us a bit of feedback on that. So at the end of the webinar, we're going to just post a survey that would really appreciate you just responding to. And I think for now, we'll delve right into our mandate for the day. Just so you know, I've got Sarah in the background who'll be taking notes, and you'll probably hear her in the background saying something. So just know that, yeah, we are a team. And to all the attendees that are here, thank you very much for being part of this. And we hope you will take away a lot of lessons as well. So for my first question, maybe I'll just put it out there, and then whoever feels okay to start will start answering the question. And maybe you could just share with us a bit about your journey of coming out and coming to Canada and navigating your identity as part of the LGBTIQ community. And maybe you could also just highlight the challenges that you faced as a newcomer who was also in the process of transitioning and or coming out. Who's ready to start?
I can go first.
Okay.
My name is Joy. My name is Ayomide. It actually translates to joy, so most people call me Joy. Yeah, like I said, I'm Nigerian. Like you said earlier, I'm Nigerian, and just the whole concept of like being queer, being trans, or like whatever identity you identify under the umbrella in Nigeria is they say is ancient to us. Never mind that like there have been like queer there has been a trans Alafin, that's like a trans king in like Nigerian history, but they will never tell you that part. They will only tell you, oh, this is alien to us, it's from the colonialists. This is not part of our culture. So I grew up with that understanding as well. Coming out, I already always knew that I was queer as a child. And yeah, my parents, I went to boarding school, and I think that was where like my identity became entrenched. And I went through, I'm sure that like a lot of us on like the panel can relate to probably incidences of violence because of our identity. So I went through what is called conversion therapy to sort of like change my sexuality. And yeah, so all of that, you sort of like be pushed back into the closet. And that was like a very weird process. Eventually, I finished as a lawyer and tried to work like in corporate commercial law, tried to like toe the line basically, but it wasn't working for me. And eventually, I tried, and my family eventually like found out again that like it did not live, because you always think that like people always think, oh, you can pray the gay away, you can always do these things, you can try to conform, but eventually we all know that like that process does not work. So I moved to the US first for school. And when my parents found out, my dad wasn't speaking to me as at the time that he died. So I'm sorry, that's like a very traumatic. But yeah, I had to move here to Canada, and I'm glad that I did. It was a very rough process, like talking to family. But I would not trade that for the freedom, for the life that I would not trade like being with my family for the freedom that I have today. So I'm so grateful to be here. I know people say that oh, there's nothing without family, but I'm lucky enough to have my chosen family, to have my friends, to have people around me who care for me, who see me as I am. And yeah, I think that's like the process of like me trying to come out and yeah, navigating life as a newcomer in Canada.
Thank you so much, Joy.
I think I'll go second.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Joy, for that introduction and getting to know where you're from and your journey. And I think I can also relate growing up in a country like Zimbabwe, where homosexual relationships criminalized. I kind of share the same background, where I grew up knowing that I was a gay man, but I had to edit a lot of myself. I had to change a lot about myself so that I fit into the community and I fit into how people would perceive me, how people perceive me. So I think as a kid, I had more freedom until I went to high school. That's when people started making jokes about me, when they started mocking how I walked. So I had to change how I walk, how I talk. And I had an unfortunate incident happen to me when I was in university, where I was outed on social media, and someone created social media group, a Facebook group, where they posted my name, my number, and where I stayed and what I did. So that's how I was forced to come out to the world. And coming to Canada, for me, it presented an opportunity to be able to live a life without fear, and to be able to live a full life and to network and get to know others who are also on the journey as queer people. So that has been my experience.
Thank you, Zozo, for that. And lastly, Rudo Chikonas.
Thank you very much, Mercy, for having me here. Thank you very much to my fellow panelists for sharing. My story resonates with what my colleagues here have shared. Having grown up in Zimbabwe, and as Tapiwa has said, the legal environment in Zimbabwe is somewhat not accommodating of the LGBTQ community. We are often persecuted. We are often made targets of political fights. We are often entangled in political fights, in campaigns. Anyone who tries to leverage on something, they use us as the negative force in the community. They use us as the example of everything that is wrong in society and everything that is eroding societal norms and values. And that is the background of where we are coming from. So for me, my journey was somewhat turbulent. I grew up in a family that is poor, if I should say. I'm a first-generation graduate. I didn't grow up in a family where everything was handed to you. Sometimes you had to push, to work towards getting an education for yourself. You had to actually take part in the process of making sure that there's school fees for you, there's food for you on the table. And that was a bit rough on the economic side. And if you are in a family like that, where there are challenges already, like the economy, things are not working out, and then they say you are bringing other issues, you are also gay. So you are the curse of the family that brings problems upon other existing problems. So you'd find that the issue of my sexuality would often cause a rift in my family. Personally, because I had a family that would constantly be going through other issues, and then my family members would come and out me and tell my mother all these things. They say, oh, your daughter is doing this with other girls, they are lesbian, you know, they're attracted to other women. And it was really emotionally and mentally draining growing up. So these things used to happen. Like what Tapiwa said, I don't remember coming out on my own or ever preparing to say I'm going to have the conversation about my sexuality with my family. I was forced into it. I was forced into a situation where I had to admit my sexuality, even though I knew that it would cause further rift between me and my family. I was put in a situation where I had to say, okay, this is who I am. Do you accept me? And I did not get the answer to that, to say, okay, we understand you, we understand who you are, we understand your journey. These are the conversations that in my society in Zimbabwe, where I come from, you do not have these conversations. They are taboo. And it's not okay, because it also gives you that emotional uncertainty to say, do I really belong? The people that I care for so much, the people that are closest to me, do they understand me? If I am to be attacked based on my sexuality, is my family going to be able to support me, to give me the support that I need? And that was always a gap. I remember I got arrested twice for participating in the Gays and Lesbians Associations of Zimbabwe events. And the 2 times that I got arrested, I never told my family that I was arrested, because I knew that that would be an extra layer of challenges on my part, to say, okay, you are in the LGBTIQ community and you're also bringing these problems. So it was a very lonely journey. That's all that I'm trying to express here, to say my journey back home was a lonely journey. I would constantly be fighting for social justice, fighting for human rights. As a LGBTIQ activist that I am, I would constantly be doing all these things alone with the family, like what Joy said, that you have to choose your own family. And to me, I had to choose my own family and fight with them, and go to pride events with them, and do social justice events with them. And that was my family. Then transitioning to Canada, Canada has presented a lot of beautiful opportunities in terms of integration to society, feeling like you are in an environment where you can flourish, where you can be yourself fully without being persecuted. And I'm absolutely grateful for that opportunity. I believe that this environment is a good environment for people who want to express themselves, who want to work with communities, and who want to just uplift other people like myself. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chikonas, for that. Thank you to the panelists for sharing your journeys. It's not an easy thing to be able to share your experiences in open like this, because of a lot of reasons like you all have alluded to. But maybe you could tell me if there were moments when your identity as a newcomer to Canada, right? And your gender or your sexual orientation felt like they were in conflict at a point, and how did you navigate that? And maybe you could also just, as you answer that question, also share with us what you would say some of the common misconceptions about the LGBTI community or LGBTQ immigrants or refugees that you've encountered.
I can start again.
Okay.
So
Sure.
I'm just going to say like this short story. I remember like when I moved to Toronto, I was staying in the shelter, and all of us who were in the shelter were all like newcomers. They were all trying to navigate life. There was like a fire alarm that had blown up, and like all of us had to be outside. I remember that like I had locks and I just dyed my hair, and these people had like they were like some Nigerian newcomers that were also there. They had like a whole full-on conversation about me, about my hair. I don't think that like they understood what I knew what they were saying. They were just like, oh my God, look at her hair. How we should dye her hair like that. For me, it was like a means of like self-expression, like being queer, being able to be in a country where like I felt like I could be myself, but also as a femme presenting person, sometimes you have like you are not queer enough. Let me put it that way. Like people don't see you sometimes. So I felt like, oh, I felt like, oh, in the process of like expressing myself, like I needed to dye my hair. So I did it, and like they talked about me. They had like a whole full-on conversation about me, about my sexuality, the people that I was friends with. And after they finished their conversation, I called my friend and I just said, oh, I just wanted to check on you. And I spoke in our language so that like they understood that I knew what they were saying. I never like went to them and said, I understand what you were saying about me. And yeah, and I could feel they were like, oh my God, so she's Nigerian. They did not know that like I was Nigerian. But what stood out for me was the fact that like we are all newcomers. We are all trying to navigate like a society that we don't know is going to be accepting to us yet. But even in like that process of being a newcomer, we are still discriminating against ourselves. Like we are still saying, these people, I belong and this person doesn't, because of the way that you think that you have perceived them. And it made me really understand like, oh, like I could not like really be friends with Nigerian newcomers who were not queer, because it meant that like I'll have to subject myself to homophobia, to yeah, I needed, and I did not, I was like, I did not escape Nigeria to come here, to come and face the same battles that I was facing back home, just because I want to be friends with my community. And that was very difficult for me, like knowing that like even my people, even though we are in a different country, would not accept me. And it took me a while. I think that like, yeah, it took me a while to actually find, because I approached the process with mistrust. Like you had to like drop hints and drop, sort of like survey people you have to say, oh, something queer, and then you try to say, what do you even think about queer people? And sort of like get their opinion before you decide if you can be friends with them or not. Yeah, that clash between like both of my identities was like very difficult, especially living amongst other people. I noticed that like if I had to meet people who were not who were queer, like I had to like hide who were Nigerian, I had to hide that I was queer. And I was like, I cannot go through this process again. And so I had to like make community with people who were like me, who were also Nigerian and queer, who were also like who were also POC, who could also relate to my struggles. And also, I also found out that like also being friends with like other people who were not POC but were just queer, I noticed that like sometimes like they could not relate to certain parts of me that yeah, they could not understand me. They could not understand my struggles. They could not understand the way that I navigated life because their only source of oppression was their queerness. That is not a bad thing, but like it's just like to say that like some people who are not like you would not understand you. And that was a very difficult process to navigate. So eventually I started going out, I started like volunteering, I started doing stuff like that, and I began to meet other people, and I made friends, I met other people who were like me, and yeah, that was how I was able to navigate like both parts of my identity and eventually make friends and yeah, navigate that process. Thank you.
Yeah, I can understand how that can be, being alone in a place where there are people. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it can be quite traumatic.
It is.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Who'll go next? Bruno?
Yeah, I think Joy kind of said some of the things that I wanted to say. So I would just say the issue of integration is very complex. When we are coming from, well, I was coming from an environment where I had this social structure that was built around me, or rather that I had created around myself. And this social structure included even my work, because I am a community development worker, so I can't separate my work from my social life. And I would find solace in being around people that I work with. I would find comfort in talking to members of the LGBTIQ community that I worked with, members of the community who were infected and affected by HIV that I worked with on a daily basis. And I think the greatest challenge for me transitioning to Canada was missing all that social connection, that the whole social connectedness that I had established so many great friendships, some of which I still have right now because of talking over the phones and everything. But just moving to another country and starting afresh, starting anew is a challenge on its own. Secondly, you're starting anew and you also identify as queer. You have all these other layers. You are a person of color. You are a biological female. You are an immigrant. You are queer. All these layers, they come into play when you try to integrate yourself and find your feet and find your space. And I think this is the greatest challenge that I found coming through. And with time, it got better. It got better, meeting people, talking to people, finding a place to work, connecting with other folks that are like-minded. It became better. But I would like to add on to what Joy said about issues to do with our communities, within our communities. I think there is really a gap there in terms of support from our fellow brothers and sisters from back home who we meet here. I've often heard people saying, I don't want to hang around people from my country because they talk too much, you know. I've heard that. And you find that even in the spaces that are being created by organizations like Positive Health Network and so on and so forth, just to give an example, there are certain people who don't want to be in that space because of toxic members of their home country, who are going to then point at you and say, oh, so you are queer, that's how you got to Canada. You know, those kinds of questions, like, why do you even worry about why someone is here, or what brought them here, or how they are in this space? So that is also a challenge. So social integration is a major part of this process that was very difficult for me. I think I'm still working on that. Yeah, but that's about it for me.
Thank you for sharing, Shikonas. I think I'll allow Taps to talk before I go on to my next question.
I also share the same experience where when I was coming from Zimbabwe, I had created a community of chosen family, people that I played with, that related to me. And coming here, you are new, I felt so alone, and my priorities when coming here were more about, survival. I'm thinking about finding a job. I'm thinking about where's my next meal coming from. So trying to find that community has been really, really difficult. And I feel that's where the clash between those two identities has been happening. And I guess as a process, I was also lucky enough to also then meet others like Mercy, whom I also got to connect with. But it's been really, really challenging trying to find that community that can replace what I had back home. And the common misconception that I found that happens with immigrants who are also LGBTI, especially in the workplace, is just assuming that just because I'm an African man, I am straight and I am homophobic, and someone just comes to you and just starts talking homophobic slurs, and you're like, but I actually identify as a gay man. And so that has been one of the common misconceptions that I found in the workplace, especially.
Yeah, it's quite sad to hear stories like those, like to say, you think that because you come from the same country, you are here, and then, yeah, I've also heard a lot of people speak like that. Somebody just starts talking about how they don't like people from the LGBTIQ community, and in the end, you probably won't be able to then say that's who I am, because you also fear being judged and stuff like that. And I think Shikonas is partly touched on what my next question was going to be, because I was going to ask what how you think support systems for LGBTIQ immigrants could be improved, and how do you think they can be made more accessible? And also, do you feel welcomed by the Canadian society as a queer person, and also generally how you feel about the community here? So I think Chikona has also a bit touched on that, and I'll give the floor. I'll start with you, Zozo. Maybe you could also just give us what you think about that.
Okay. What was the first part of your question?
Like the support system, how do you think the support system for queer immigrants can be improved or can be made more accessible? And the second part of it is how do you feel? Do you feel welcomed by the Canadian society, or have you at some point faced some kind of discrimination because of who you are, and generally how you feel about the community here?
So speaking from my own experience, coming to Canada, I felt like the change of location was going to change how I feel as a gay man. I felt like I'm gonna be so free, but I realized that I had internalized so much homophobia in myself. So trying to seek resources or communities has been difficult for me. So I feel organizations can be more visible by being more visible, going to communities instead of communities looking for resources, if you know what I'm trying to explain. Because we're coming from different backgrounds, religious backgrounds, cultural backgrounds. So not everyone is free to be out like that. So I feel that's the number one issue where I feel I hardly know organizations that are working with queer people, because like I said earlier, my main priorities has been looking for a job, trying to survive. So in between, trying to find community has been difficult. So that would be number one issue. Then the second one, second part of your question, I tried to go to an event, and when I went to the event, I felt very welcome by the. It was a ballroom event, and I felt very welcome from the people who were there. They were willing to ask me where I'm from. Most of them, they've been in Canada for a while. So from that experience, I would say I felt quite welcome, and it was easy to communicate with them and to connect with them as well.
All right. Thank you very much, Tabs. Joy, do you want to take that next?
Yeah. I think that like it can be improved by providing more, like I think Taps like you called him Taps, so that I internalized it. Tapiwa said about organizations going to communities as opposed to communities going to organizations. A lot of the times, like a lot of people, because of like the internalized homophobia, because of their experiences, especially like experiences like mine, it's very difficult to seek out help, to say that like this is what I need. So if there's a situation where like organizations can go to shelters, can go to where people stay, and sort of like say, oh, this is us, this is what we do, sort of like outreaches into the community, like let us know that like, oh, there are people who accept us, who do not care about like where we are from, but also care about where we are from, but also want us to have like better access to stuff. Yes. And also I would also say that sometimes you are so focused on like survival, like when you come here, you need to make money, like you need to get out of the shelter, you need to navigate life, that you forget to reach out to community as well, that you need community. So if there's like a situation where like organizations can collaborate between one another, and like, for example, if you are holding an event, make sure that like there is organizations who are hiring people who can provide maybe language translation, who I think some of these resources are like if things like that could be done, it's like very important, because like it's like it would be like a one-stop shop for all of the things that like is bothering me. For example, I'm meeting community, but I'm also getting jobs, but I'm also editing my CV. I'm also all of the things that like bothers me. I think that like that would be wonderful. To the second part of your question about I'm sorry, I missed the second part.
Like if you feel welcome by the broader Canadian community.
Yeah, I think to an extent that I do. I think that like even if you're homophobic here, the fact that there are laws that protect people, and that and everybody knows, actually adds like an added layer of protection. I remember my first Pride, I cried because I could not imagine that I went somewhere and I didn't have to look out for the police. I didn't have to look for like the other exit routes.
Correct. Yeah.
I think that like those kind of things are like very overrated, like underrated. Like people don't understand how important those things are to us. Like being able to just express yourself, being able to hold your girlfriend's hand in public, something as little as that, I feel very accepted. Obviously, there are places here where you can't really express yourself. I feel welcome, but like I still feel like there are gaps that still need to be closed. For example, you probably won't hold your girlfriend's hand on the TTC, like on public transportation, because it could open you up to homophobic attacks. And they will just blame it on mental health or something. Like all those gaps, I feel like sometimes the police doesn't take issues of like homophobia as serious. Like the burden is on you, the person who has received like the homophobic attack to get clarity or to get justice. And I think that like because all of this, we are human beings and we have our biases, and when we get into systems that are supposed to protect other people, these biases come up. So, and they make them institutional of sorts. But at the same time, I think that like, yeah, I've been accepted, yes, but I still think that like there are still things that like the government needs to do to make sure that there's more protection for people who are queer, who are LGBTQ like us.
Thank you for sharing that, Joy. Chikonas, do you have more to add to that?
You're muted.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was blubbering. Yeah. Oh, so I just wanted to say, I think the only thing that I feel should be added to the support system, I do appreciate existing programs that are there within our local organizations. I stay in Hamilton, Ontario, and I know there are a lot of organizations that may not be specifically serving LGBTIQ plus, but have wings or arms within them that do serve the LGBTQ plus population. So that is good. But I just want to add that I think there should be a deliberate effort to have programs that assist LGBTIQ plus immigrants all year round. I do appreciate the hype that is there at this point, like at this time of the year, around May, June, when it's Pride Month, when it's Ida Hobbit season. I know most organizations will be buzzing with queer activities, queer programs and so on and so forth. But I believe that there's a gap there. We shouldn't only make noise about human rights when it's a certain time of the year. We shouldn't only be making noise about two-spirited people and LGBTQ plus people when it's in May because there's Ida Hobbit, when it's in June because it's Pride season. There should be a deliberate effort by organizations, local organizations, to identify the needs of the community and give the community a holistic program that serves all their needs, including the needs of the two-spirited LGBTIQ plus community members and immigrants as well. So I think as organizations, there should be a constant surveying of the situations around us to see what the gaps are, to see what the needs are, to see the recurring challenges and make sure that there are programs put in place to take care of those. Because the challenges that someone who migrated 5 years ago to Canada faced and the challenges that I am facing as someone who migrated 2 years ago are totally different. And so organizations should be constantly checking for these, should be constantly releasing surveys to the communities, like what I agree with what Joy said about going to the communities. When we are doing our outreaches, for example, in Positive Health, I know you guys do a lot of outreaches in the community. Is there any messaging that speaks to two-spirited LGBTQ populations within your outreach? It might be an outreach about something different, but what is it that you're deliberately doing to make sure that no one is left behind in your programming? So just to say that this should be an all year round thing, not an Ida Hobbit thing, because we are celebrating the day against violence against the transgender community, or a June thing because it's Pride season, but it should be constantly happening. We should be seeing these things. These programs should be part and parcel of our daily programming as people who provide services. That's what I think.
Thank you very much, Konas. I think somehow it feels like you are reading my mind on what I'm going to ask next and all. I was going to ask, like on a personal journey, on your journey as a newcomer to Canada, what resources were like, what resources worked for you? What worked best for you? Like, what was most helpful to you? And also, what do you think could have helped you? Like, what were the resources that you wish you had known earlier? And on that note, as we talk about service providers, we know that there's a lot of like misconceptions, and we come from different cultures, right? And in your getting help or getting resources, what do you think that most service providers get wrong in serving the two-spirited and LGBTIQ communities? What do you think could be changed or could be improved in their service provision when working with the LGBTIQ communities who are also newcomers to Canada?
Can I start on that one and just continue
So
from
this
where I
is like
left?
a three-tier question as well. The resources that were really, really helpful to you,
Okay,
which now you had known earlier,
the
what tips
resources.
you would give to service providers? What do you think they get wrong in their service provision? Yeah. So because this discussion also, we also want to have lessons, right, for the service providers, and we also want to give tips to those who are new to Canada and are going through the same processes that all of us have gone through. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll start with the first part. The resources that worked for me, really, the information booklets that I even got when I got here about settlement services. Where can you get housing? How can you get assistance if you need? Who to call if you are in an emergency? Settling was very complicated, and I think I'm not sure who between Joy and Tapua mentioned about the issue of housing issues. That is one very critical issue that it worked for me, making, knowing that I have somewhere to go. I will not be sleeping in the streets because I have an organization that I can go to. I can go to YMCA. I can go to Positive Health and get information on places where I can sleep. That is something that really worked for me, because housing is a very big challenge. And without housing, you can't then look for a job. You can't then do all the other things that you can do when you're settled. So that is one thing that really worked for me. And I think in terms of what maybe might go wrong, or I'd rather want to say the gaps that exist, I think it involves having a blanket approach to serving the two-spirit LGBTQ community. Most organizations that I have interacted with believe that everyone who falls in the 2S LGBTQI plus group wants the same exact services, and they are a group, so they want the same exact things. And I think that is a huge gap that I've seen, because I've often gone to organizations and I've noticed that they're doing the same thing that each and every other organization is doing. And you find that there's a repetition of efforts everywhere. Every organization is doing the same thing. Every organization is doing the same thing. But there are also gaps that exist. There are transgender people who are within the two-spirit LGBTQ plus group, but they might want separate services. So I think that blanket approach of just saying this group wants this, I do not know if maybe organizations are informed by prior research or efforts that were done before, but I will reiterate that I think there is need to constantly be refreshing our programming so that it suits the people that we are looking at that specific point in time, the people that we are giving services to, so that we offer a human-centered program. We do these things centering on the human being that we are serving, not on the group that might not even be existing at that very point in time, but to put our focus on the people that we are directly serving. For example, I'll give an example. I interacted with someone who was finding it difficult to get services for Two-Spirit LGBTIQ people in a setup where harm reduction is being provided. So they felt like they are being given condoms, yes. They are being given other things, yes. But then they're asking for dental dams, and they're saying, okay, I should be able to at least get these as well in this space. And they would not get it in that space. Limitations may exist, I do acknowledge, but I was just pointing this out as a way of saying we should be very specific in identifying the exact needs of every individual, and not just saying because people are belonging to this group, this is what they want, and imposing some services that might not even be necessary or relevant to an individual at that time.
All right. Thank you for pointing that out. Who's going next on that question?
I can go. I can relate a lot to what like Rudo said about blanket provisions of services. I remember that like when I moved, like I had come in through like Roxham Road before it was shut down. And I remember that like they asked me, oh, so where do you want to go in Canada? And I was like, oh, I want to go to Toronto because I heard that like there are a lot of queer people there. And they were like, oh, Ontario. And they took me to Windsor. And I was like, and it was not a bad life. I mean, we were in a hotel, we were waking up, sleeping and waking up, just eating. But I was like, this has to be more to life than sleeping and waking up in a hotel and just eating on government money. So I think that like, yeah, there needs to be like nuanced approach towards like provision of services, not just lumping us together in one big category. Resources like COAB for housing has to be not just one time of the year, not just ends, because I remember during my time, I think it ended in May, and like everybody who had come throughout the year had to stay in the shelter to wait till the next May before they could get housing. So all this, even some people don't even know about like a lot of all these resources. They don't know. Like it took me going on the internet, trying to find out what is going on, trying to do my own research for me to be able to find out about a lot of things. So, and even all those resources are not available for everybody because there are like limitations that are put on it to say it only exists for this time of the year. You have to have met, I think that there has to be like low barrier access. That's the word, yeah, low barrier access towards these resources, not making it difficult for us to be able to access these things. I think that like service providers, I know that like because of funding, sometimes because I work in this field as well, I know like you know that this is what the community needs, but this is what the funder wants you to do. But yeah, there are ways to like marry both. Like, we know how we do these things to make sure that like we make sure that we are meeting the needs of the community that actually need us, not just putting it, not just saying, oh, this is what all of them want, like, and just doing that. We can't do that. I also think that resources that were helpful for me was like volunteering. I think that like it gave me like a sense of purpose, and even though like I finished my claim, I'm now a protected person, but I still volunteer from time to time because it gives me like a sense of purpose to be able to. I remember a few days ago I was volunteering, and like I met people who were volunteering as well, and we're new to the country, and it gave me a sense of purpose to be able to tell them, oh, do this, take pictures, use this. We're also queer, because people don't know these things. So I think that like these are things that like gaps that like organizations need to do, maybe like newcomer sessions, and not just newcomer sessions for everybody that are like very blanket, but like trans newcomer sessions, 12 LGBTQ plus newcomer sessions. There may be general newcomer sessions just to make sure that like people assimilate into the community. Some people don't know how to use public transportation because it's not something that is like we don't tap cards back home. Is if you have your cash, you enter the bus. So all those things, I think they may see it as like simple things, but like they are very important to the people that we serve. And like I think that like this kind of webinars as well. I'm glad that you said there's going to be more of it, because I think that like these are the ways that like people will be able to get access to the things that like to hear about other people and know that they are not alone in their experience. And also to know that like there's no stupid question. Sometimes we feel like in our ignorance, we feel like, oh, I'm the only one who is going through this thing. If I say it, they'll think I'm stupid. But like to also know that like there's no such thing. Whatever you think that you are going through, it may be unique, yes, but there's somebody who has gone through that same experience too. Yeah, so always like asking questions and for organizations to meet those specific needs as well. I think that those are very important.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joy. Taps, you want to tackle that?
Yes, I think for me, the biggest resource that was quite helpful was YMCA. I was part of the organization. They helped me with my CV, looking for a job and stuff like that. But I think it would have been helpful if it was an organization that had a holistic approach, like I think it's Rudo who mentioned that, or Joy, where you get to edit your CV, but you're also you're also connecting with others who are also LGBTI plus Q. So I think that would be my contribution on that. That organizations to have a holistic approach to assisting newcomers, not just a blanket approach as well, not just a blanket approach where they assume that we are all straight, or we are all straight and we come from the same backgrounds, but to say we also have we can also deal with queer people. And let me take that again. Sorry, I'm saying organizations to have a holistic approach where they help with editing of CVs, as well as connecting with others who are also part of the queer community, but not just dealing with a approach that is mainly targeting straight people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. I think I'm getting a whole lot of questions coming in my mind, and like I feel like you guys you guys are doing a great job. I'm also happy to hear that, Joy, you're part of actually the service providers, and Chikonas, you've also worked in that field as well, and you are volunteering in that field as well. So I want to believe that you would understand what an inclusive and affirming service provision is. And that would take me to my next set of questions to say, for you, what would you say is inclusive and affirming service provision? Like support, what would that look to you? And also as a service provider, what do you think could be improved? And what is the importance of a service provider actually recognizing the intersectionalities of culture, religion, and identity? Because all these are a part of they're part of a person as they come for a service, right? There's need for them to acknowledge that this person is coming from a different cultural background, this person is of a different religion, and this person identifies differently, whether it's being two-spirited or being part of the LGBTIQ community. As service providers, what do you think could be improved? What do you think needs to be improved regarding that? And to you, what does inclusive and affirming support look like? Maybe you could actually give us, specific examples in that. maybe what you have seen as a client or as a service provider or vice versa, anything. Yeah.
I think that organizations need to listen to folks. I know that like we are all like trying to manage the all same 5 resources from this all same five funders, but I think that like we need to listen. Not just, I feel like also telling people that their dreams are valid, because these people that are coming, I remember like I told somebody that, oh, I used to be a lawyer back home. I think I want to work in nonprofit. I used to work in nonprofit. I think I can use these resources. And the person actually laughed at me. This person is supposed to be a service provider, by the way.
Oh my
They
God.
laughed at me and told me, you better go to PSW school. And I think that like, I wish I could see this person now and tell them that like, look at me, I'm actually using my degree. I think that like a lot of people, like a lot of that idea is very prominent, that like, oh, once you come here, your education, your experience back home is useless. You need to come back and start from the beginning. I won't say like you would not have to start like from the beginning, but I would say that like those ideas, those experiences, they are not useless. Like it's something that like you can still use. Also, I know it's difficult, but at the same time, like I wish that like organization service providers would listen to like people, to clients, to not just tell them, to not just tell like make a one step or one how do I put it, a blanket approach, like Rodo said, like Tapiwa said. I think that we already like talked about this a bit. Like I wish that like there will be nuanced approach. I also wish that like as a service provider, I know that like we are all like we get the resources and we are trying to manage it and also make sure that like we meet the needs of like the community, but also compromise between what the community needs and what the funders need, so that we can use these resources to reach the people who actually needs them. I think like that's very important. Not just coming to it and just saying, oh, all of you, this is all you need, like just grouping us into one huge category, but also like looking out for us. Like I feel like sometimes we feel like as a client, but also as a service provider, people can feel like numbers. Sometimes you need the numbers to be able to get all these things, but also realize that these are people with feelings, with who are going through so much. Like this period is a very delicate period of our lives, but also like just listen to people. I feel like by listening, you're able to even when people feel included in what you are doing, they'll even tell their friends that this person was helpful to me, this organization was helpful to me, and you will even get your numbers. But yeah, so I think that like that is very important. Like not just, yeah, just reach out to us, talk to us, listen to us. Yes. I say this as a client and also as a service provider. Yes.
Thank you very much. That has really helped. Like we've got maybe in our attendees section, we've got people who are service providers, but also people who are clients navigating the same situations. And I'm sure they're getting, lessons and tips on how to navigate this. Chikonas, you've got something to say?
Joy said it all. She said it all. But
Right.
yeah, I was also going to speak along the lines of having a listening ear to what the clients say. I previously spoke about having a human-centered design and designing our programs and our activities and our events specifically to suit the needs of our members, to suit the accessibility needs. You spoke of accessibility the other time, Mercy. If we're going to have a meeting, if it's a webinar, how are we going to make it accessible to our members? Are all our members able to connect to the internet? How are we going to make sure that those who cannot connect to the internet get the support they need? Listening to them, finding out the challenges that they face on a day-to-day basis. And I think when you speak of affirming services, you spoke of inclusion, what inclusion would look like and what affirming services would look like. I think inclusion means different things to different people at a certain point in time. And I might feel included just by the fact that you have a program that has 2S LGBTIQ. I do not mind whether it has all these other layers in it, the healthcare, whatever, the mental health. I just want to know that there's that social aspect. Someone else might want the whole inclusive program and everything and all the tiny little bits of it. So as service providers, I think how you can make your programs inclusive and affirming is like what Joy said, listening to your members, listening to them before you design the huge programs, before you design that end of year party for the 2S LGBTIQ. Have you at least spoken to some of them to find out what is happening in the community? Have you spoken to them about the event that you're having, the meeting that you're having, the topics that are being discussed? Do they want to be talking about food in that meeting, or they want to be talking about intimate partner violence, which is something that is troubling them at that particular point in time? So inclusion, like Joy said, is all about listening because it involves doing what serves the community specifically.
All right. Thank you very much for that very insightful point. Zozo, do you have anything to say?
I think I'll just speak from a client perspective. All I want when I go to an organization is to feel safe, that my status or my identity or my background will not be used against me. I just want to feel safe. That's what I would think will makes an inclusive and affirming support.
Thank you very much. I'm sure all our service providers out there and our clients can also resonate and take away some things from what we are saying, because I'm sure people have been in the same situations that all of us have also been, and they're also navigating the same challenges that we are navigating. And that brings me to a very important topic on HIV prevention and support. As you know, Positive Health Network, we also work with communities that are affected by HIV, and HIV is like a worldwide thing that we are trying to address, right? And at times, as newcomers, you come to a different country, maybe the way I would say back in Africa or in some countries, the way you'd get your medication or prevention of HIV is talked about is different. What are some of the barriers for people who are part of the 2S LGBTIQ community in getting resources, or like what do they face when it comes to accessing HIV prevention and treatment services? What do you think are some of those challenges that they face? You may not have maybe been part of it, like as a personal journey, or maybe you know some people that have gone through that, or also as a service provider, these are some of the things that you've seen. What would you like to share with the audience as those barriers that people face as immigrants? You're a newcomer, and also you've got this identity crisis that you're navigating. Who would want to tackle that first?
I can go. I think in HIV prevention, I think that like it's yeah, I think that during that beginning process where like a lot of folks come in, we have noticed, like as a service provider, I'm just saying this, that we have noticed that like during the process where like people come in, it's where like even some people get infected with the virus, because like they did not know, because there's a myth that like there's no HIV in Canada. I don't know where that myth is from, but like it's something that like a lot of newcomers believe. And I think this is because back home, like we have signboards, we have like posters, we have a lot of programming, a lot of things that like let you know that like, oh, wear a condom, do this, do that. But yeah, it's very muted. That's the word I'll use. Like it's not, you can't, unless you approach like a service organization, you won't really know. So a lot of people throw caution to the winds, and also bearing in mind that like there are other factors that are affecting them, such as like mental health, like that process, like the depression that hits you when you first get to another country, coupled with like seasonal depression of like winter. Maybe you come during the winter period. I know everybody's first winter was like very difficult. So you are not really thinking about things like safety. You're not thinking about things like you're not thinking about HIV prevention or even STI prevention. So I think that like during that period, this is when organizations need to reach us and like make sure that like during that beginner period that they make sure that they reach us, they pass along these messages that don't throw caution to the wind. This is where new conversations are like very important. Don't throw caution to the wind, like you always use the condom. You don't know these people. Even if they tell you you don't trust me, because sometimes relationships can feel like your anchor, and you feel like if I lose this person, I'm not going to meet somebody who feels like them anymore. I think that like, yeah, this is where organizations need to like pass these messages through our own experiences as well, and tell people that, yeah, you still need to make sure that talk about these things. Nothing is too shameful, nothing is too I think there's a sort of like shame and stigma that we also brought from back home around these topics. So I feel like organizations need to pass along that message and just, I don't know, nail the nail on the head and just tell folks that like, yeah, HIV is still here, still predominant in this, it's still an endemic. Even though we are all saying 95, 95, 95, and we are saying we want to reach our goals by 2030. The thing is that there are still people who are unreachable, people who don't know their status. Yeah, so we need to make sure that like we are passing along these messages during this critical period. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joy, for that. Anybody else wants to go for that one?
I think I'll just go with what Joy said when it comes to fear and shame. That's one of the major barriers when it comes to accessing HIV prevention and treatment of services, because most people fear that they might be outed or they might be discriminated against, and there's this misconception around service providers that you would have created because of where you are from, and you really don't have access to information. So one of the main barriers, I would say, fear and shame.
Yeah, thank you, Tapiwa. Rudo.
I believe that there is a lot of emphasis on HIV treatment and care, that there is a gap in terms of preventative, I hope that's how you say it, HIV prevention information. Yes. So for someone like what Joy said, that you're transitioning to a new country, there are a lot of myths out there that are there. People will be telling you numbers that they make up in their head, and they'll be telling you that, okay, the HIV prevalence for Canada is at this and this, the HIV prevalence is at this and this, and all that information, when people are newcomers and they are from the two-spirited LGBTIQ plus community, they are exposed to this information, most of which is just false. And I believe that organizations need to do more in terms of providing HIV counseling to people who are not seeking to be tested, providing HIV counselors to members of Positive Health Network, members of YMCA, members of YWCA, without someone getting an HIV test, why don't they get a session, a 10-minute session, and be counseled about, get counseling about prevention of HIV, like what Joy and Tapiwa were saying, you know, STIs, because I do know that the prevalent STIs in Canada are different from the STIs that are prevalent in Zimbabwe, where I come from. From here, I hear a lot of talk about chlamydia, which is spoken about in Zimbabwe, but it is not as prevalent as it is here. So this is some of the information that people have to know. People have to understand. They do have to understand what is around. And even without me seeking HIV treatment, I might have the need for HIV treatment. I might not have the need for HIV treatment, but the counseling should be given to me regardless. It should be offered to me. So organizations should do more in terms of providing information on HIV prevention, even the treatment and care part, but mostly I think the gap exists in the prevention because we are mostly concentrating on treatment and care, but we are not also realizing that we also have folks who are HIV positive, who are living healthy lives, and they want to date members of the community who might or might not be HIV positive. And all these negative myths and information, it causes those people who regard themselves as not members of the HIV positive community to not want to associate themselves with members of the HIV plus community who are living healthy lives. So we have to make sure that we give everyone information, because information about HIV and AIDS is not only important to someone who is living with HIV and AIDS. It is important to each and every person in society. It is important to the carer of someone who is maybe not feeling well, and they need to know this information so that they know how to give the proper support. It is important to the family members. It is important to the partners of people who are living with HIV. It's important to each and everyone. So there should be more information on that, which I think is a huge gap, because I do appreciate, I've seen so many programs about treatment and care, and they're doing well. But even in most of our settlement packages, we would have all the information about mental health issues, about everything, about where to get health care in broad, but there sometimes is never any information specifically on HIV-related counseling for members. So I think that should also be addressed. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Oh, yeah, I'm flooded with the information and a whole lot of other things. So I'm thinking just maybe to give a recap, you know, like what Joy has said, you're coming from Nigeria, you come here and you also want to get services, maybe you want to get tested, you go to an AIDS service organization, you get there and you see another fellow Nigerian working there. You also want to be safe, right? You also want to know that they will not use your information against you. You also want to know that there won't be, you know, rumors or people talking about you because somebody has seen that you've gotten these services and you've also maybe tested positive to HIV and they've got this information about you. So it's a whole lot when you're also transitioning and you're also part of the 2S LGBTIQ community. I do understand that. Sarah, do you have any questions in our Q&A that you might want to read out for our panelists to answer?
Yes, I have one that's still here. Joy answered one already. This is from an anonymous attendee, and they ask, wondering if any of the panelists have experienced a kind of negative experience from other gay folks from the same community. For example, I sometimes feel less respected from the same in my community because I am a brother, and thus I can be spoken to with less respect than gay folks from other communities.
I would say definitely. I already saw the question. I was trying to type to answer, but Sarah read it out. I think definitely people think that, like, because they use stereotypes and relatability, because they think, oh, this person is my Nigerian brother, so now they can like perpetrate like weird what's it called? A few days ago, even though I was saying that, like, oh, I met like queer Nigerians who were volunteering. I also like someone was asking like thinking because I'm Nigerian and queer, it means that like I'm against like even though I'm transphobic. So I had to like so I think that like the first thing to do is to shut it down immediately and say they may think that like, oh, now wow, your own is too much, or like, do you understand? Like that's a thing that like when people say to say, oh, why are you like that? But also shut it down immediately and tell them that like you can't speak to me like that. You can't share these weird ideas with me because you think that like we are from the same part of the world and like you can share these ideas. This is not a safe space for you. It's not a safe space for you to share these ideas. Yeah, so I think that like the first thing is they'll tell themselves that like, oh, that person, they may think you are different and it may make you feel ordered, but in time they'll come to know that like, oh, they do not, this is somewhere where you cannot share that kind of ideas, or you cannot disrespect me because you think that like I'm one of you, if that makes sense.
All right, anyone else to answer that?
I actually think Joy is correct there. Our communities, there has been a lot of abuse from within our own immigrant communities, especially of the 2S LGBTIQ plus community. We are often regarded as they, them, and then there's the rest of the immigrants in another group. So that is something that is very sad. And I think organizations should take a step in ensuring that information is passed on to within the immigrant group, that abuse is not tolerated. Abuse, outing each other, because even right now, as we are in Canada, there are people who are immigrants who still believe that they can out the true-spirited LGBTIQ immigrants from their country. We find people who are immigrants here in Canada who are outing us back home and telling people that, oh, okay, so-and-so is now here in Canada and you don't know what they're doing now. They are free. They are living like this. They are, you know, da-da-da, you know. So it's my story to tell. It's never anyone's story to tell. And I don't know how organizations that work with immigration can put this across, but this is a very sensitive issue, which I think internally we should educate each other about the harm that this causes to people, the dangers of this to people, because you can't be telling someone else's story when they are not telling their own story on their own. This is not your narrative. I am an immigrant. I am two-spirited LGBTIQ, but this is my story to tell, not yours. By virtue of you being from the same country with me. That does not give you a right to go back home when you are visiting and make me a subject and a topic to discuss. That does not also give you a right to make the Christian immigrant community here in Canada to dislike me because you'll be telling people at the local church here in Canada that I am 2S LGBTIQ. So these are the really genuine things that are happening within the community. And it's sad because it sort of brings back that stigma, that discrimination that we are running away from. It's following us even here when we migrate. We find that our fellow community members are bringing that persecution into our community. They are bringing that abuse into the community. And it can only take organizations to assist and identify these challenges, and also identify people that they can make champions and make them voices of change, to say someone is an immigrant, an empowered immigrant who can speak against these practices, because these are practices that are being perpetuated day by day. We do talk about it, we do say it's wrong, but it's happening and it keeps on happening. It's becoming a culture, and before we know it, we would not be able to separate right and wrong, because it will become normal.
So powerful. Can you speak about how your Zimbabwean or Nigerian cultures have given you the strength, the power, and wisdom to persevere and succeed? We've heard some of the pain points from the places you came, but no doubt your cultures have also given you strength. And do you find that you can bring that here and actualize that part of you?
Yeah, I think that no, I think that how do I put this? Yes, I feel like my culture is part of me. I feel like, yes, my culture informs like the way that I go about stuff. It has given me strength to be able to navigate like a lot of experiences. I think even experiences back home have also given me the strength to be able to navigate experiences here. Yeah, I think one thing that like my people say is one tree does not make a forest. So it has my cult, and that has made me seek out community. I think community is everything, not just and I think that like even though we say one tree doesn't make a forest, not all trees make a forest. There were some people are plants that you should not have around you. So also navigating knowing which how do I put it? Which trees that you want to make up your own forests is very important. Being able to choose, make sure that members like your friends, your community, people who share this, I think is very important. Like people who are around you share the same ideas as you. It's not just making people say, oh, it's like speaking into a void, or it's like or it's like sharing, but also just making sure that like it's just making sure that you are safe. I found myself that when I got here, I deleted a lot of people off my Instagram. They may say, oh, she's now proud. It's because she's in Canada. That's their personal problem. It meant that like I was safe on my social media. It meant that like I think that like using that part of my culture to make sure that like interpreting it the way that suits me was very important for me. I'll say that's my answer.
Thank you. And Zozo, Rudo, anyone to take that?
I'll take that for a bit. I also relate to what Joy said. I think growing up in Zimbabwe, we were raised with the spirit of Ubuntu, which is a Southern African philosophy that emphasizes human connection, compassion, and community. So that has been an anchor throughout my journey in Canada. And from this webinar, I've actually also gotten to understand that I should seek out more of this community and more of these conversations and get to know others who are also part of the journey. That's my contribution.
Chikonas?
Well, for me, it's my background, the part of my background that I feel has been a positive factor in my transition is the family part. I think Ubuntu, like what Tapio said and Joy said, you know, the interconnectedness that we have in Africa and specifically in Zimbabwe, where I come from. I remember sharing with a friend here that we do things differently. When we talk about family, we include extended family, we include cousins, nieces, nephews. Where I come from, my sister's children are my kids, and I take care of them like they're my kids. And, you know, having those family values instilled in you, it presents everywhere you go. I have made some great friendships, and I believe that it's part of that which draws them to me. So being African and being Zimbabwean, it also teaches you to be resilient. The resilience that we have. I'm coming from a country that we are taught to be resilient, regardless of the circumstances. We learn to be resilient, to have faith. You always have a ton of faith. You can encourage a brother, a sister who is going through something. You always know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. So these are the qualities that my culture and my background have instilled in me, and they are working for me right now.
Wow. I'm short of words. I understand that, you know, as individuals who've gone through, you know, different parts, and our journeys have been different. Like one of the questions that Sarah read out, that you can also be discriminated within the 2S LGBTQI community as well. With someone may say, Joy, you are not, gay enough, maybe you are not gay at all and stuff like that. But you have managed to, go through those journeys, and you've managed to be here and navigating the challenges in a foreign land where, family is probably just as can be actually one person or two or three, and then you've got other people who are part of your community. So with that, I would like to maybe just take a round to get the last words that you'd want to share with our audience. What would you like to say? Maybe any takeaways, any tips, anything, just briefly. We got something like 4 minutes, and then we can wrap up, and yeah.
I think it's just to press on what I've been saying earlier. Community is everything. Find your community. It makes your journey less. I always say my people have a saying that when you're carrying load, if two people are carrying it together, it makes it less heavy. So always like make sure that like you are reaching out, like making friends, building community for yourself. It makes your journey way less easier. This is a very difficult process, and sometimes you don't even have the words for it, but just make sure that like you build a community of people around you who understand you, who are like you, who may not, sometimes they may not even really understand what you are going through, but as long as like they are powerful, strong allies as well, make sure that like your community is filled with people like that who will stand up for you, who also share in your experiences as well. I think that like it's a very unique and very difficult process, but once you have community, it makes it the journey is more beautiful and the process is better for it.
My
No.
my takeaway is that you are not alone. There are organizations that are ready, organizations like PSH that are ready to assist you on the journey. And as Messi has told us, there will be more of webinars like this. So I guess we'll get to learn more and continue hear others share their stories.
Definitely.
Yeah, for me, my last words would be we need to listen to each other more and just reiterate on the power of embracing each other, regardless of our differences and our diversity. Just listening to the next person, finding out what they are about, not going into conclusions, and let's get rid of the stereotypes. There are certain stereotypes that immigrants are this, immigrants are that, two-spirited LGBTQ people are like this and that. Let's not believe in stereotypes, but let's get to know people, even in our professional spaces. Let's just take a step back when we feel like we do not have enough information, and gather as much information as we need to be able to assist and be of the highest level of support that we should be for our members and our communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would love to thank all of you for being part of this amazing discussion. I am really grateful that you spared your time to be part of this and you shared your journeys. It's not an easy thing to do. Some of us may not probably not be able to actually, express ourselves in the way that you guys did. And I'm sure we've managed to inspire people out there, part of our audience. People are saying, someone has actually said that they're actually a different person now from the way that they joined this meeting initially, because of the way you guys have explained things and how you have shared your experiences. So I'm really grateful. We are very grateful here at Positive Health Network. We are lucky to have had a very vibrant panel to share this and give information and also, share your experiences. Thank you very, very much. And I'd like to wish you a very beautiful day. And thank you for being part of this. Sarah, do you have anything to say?
No, just thank you.
And thank you to our attendees. Thank you for being part of this. And we hope you have taken away a lot. And we also hope to hear from you through our survey on what you have taken away as well and what we could improve in our next webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you too.
Bye.
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 Really? I really.
Yes, you can leave.
Okay. Thank you, Mercy.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you so much.
Bye.